Hi, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Just sitting out here looking out over the mountains, and brought to mind a Vietnam story that I decided to make the first chapter in my video journal. When I came out of the service, I got a job driving a truck, and I eventually got a really good bid where I would go to the same place and it would be at night. We'd just drive all night across familiar roads. And you had a lot of time to think when you're in the truck for like 8, 9 hours and just driving. And I was going through the mountains one night, and a poem came into my head about a battle in Vietnam. Um, I'll put a link to the poem and the story in the description. But if I recall the poem, that mountain shapes and leafless trees remind me of another place, in a place across the sea, with pockmarked hills and confirmed kills and bombers in the night, of waking up in a foxhole to the sound of a firefight. That part of the poem refers to an engagement we had, and I never knew where we were. I was just a lance corporal and a corporal while I was over there, so I didn't have a need to know. My job was to keep track of the ammunition and make sure everybody had their supplies, and uh, if somebody was wounded, to get them out with the helicopter support teams. And it was really I was just there because that's where we were. And in this case, we were on a mountain, and the whole battle started out bad. We landed. When I landed, they would fly us in helicopters. When I landed, there was a firefight going on where we were actually landing into what they called the hot zone, where you had to get out of there quick. So it was in high grass, very dry high grass, and we were so close to the enemy that the bombs were coming like right over our heads. And the way the enemy was marked was with smoke grenades. Well, a red smoke grenade would mean that we want the jets to bomb that area. Well, it so happened that, as happened often, the grass caught fire. And if it was from a tracer bullet or an explosive, I don't know what it was, but now we're trying to put this fire out in this hot landing zone while the jets are bombing overhead, and the fire sets off a red smoke grenade. Well, the jet saw the red smoke grenade, and then I tell you what, we have a superior Air Force and Marine Corps, Navy. These guys are tops. But as soon as they see that red smoke grenade, they're on target and they bomb, and they're pretty accurate where that red smoke is. Well, they hit us with three 250-pound bombs. No one was killed at that battle, at that point, but we had several guys really badly wounded. Well, we had to get them out while the firefight was going on. We're trying to put a fire out with entrenching tools so we can get the helicopters in and get the stuff out of there. And as I'm swinging my entrenching tool, my thumb hit a blade of that grass, that like elephant grass, and it wedged under my thumbnail, probably about close to half an inch. It was really in there, but we couldn't stop at that point because we were still trying to get the hell out of there. So it worked out. We got out of there, and I remember, we took a hill. We set it in on the top of a hill, and as we're sitting there, we're talking, and the one guy had a rifle that we took with us. We got the wounded people out, and we took their weapons and stuff. We had to carry them with us because we couldn't get another helicopter in to get the gear out, so we had to take it with us. So there was a M16 that was hit with shrapnel, and it was hit right in the bolt. And one of the guys was looking at the M16. He goes, "I wonder if this would still fire." And he pulled the trigger, and there was a round in the chamber. It went off and shot the guy across from him, who happened to be from Philadelphia, if I recall. His name was Pat. I think it was Pat McLaughlin. But in any event, he now had a collapsed lung. So this was like in the dark after the battle we had during the day. So now we had to land a helicopter at night in a very hot zone where when the enemy saw helicopters come, that was, a target that they wanted to hit. So they would land the helicopters. A guy would stand out in a what we had a landing zone we always cleared, and we had a guy stand out there with a strobe light, and the helicopter would zoom in on that strobe light. They'd get the chopper in, we'd get the guy on, and they'd be out of there in seconds. It was really very well-timed operation. So we got our guy out, and then we settled in on the top of that hill. It was a nice location. It was a nice stream, clean water there. We were there for maybe a day. At that point, we were, I guess, monitoring troop movements because it was toward the Tet, in the Tet offensive era, and we were attacked. I think it was the second night we were attacked by a very large force, where it was a battle all night. The battle went all night, and as a result of that, we were actually trapped there for 2 days because we couldn't get out the next day. So we stayed another night, and by the time we left, in the poem I take poetic license. I say 15 body bags lined the LZ. I think it was about 15 guys that were killed or died as a result of that. That's where the 15 comes from. But we had to get all those guys out of there, and then the landing zone caught fire. When we were finally getting out, the landing zone caught fire. We had to pull the dead bodies that were there. We had to pull them away. Some of them were in body bags. We pulled them away, and while we're doing that, the net with the ammunition catches fire, and it starts going up. The ammunition crates are wood, very dry wood at that point. So the box starts burning on the side. The box that the small arms rounds started going off, but they didn't go far because there was no compression. They just like popped. But the other box, there was mortar rounds, and the one box that was on fire was hand grenades. So I was the ammunition tech. My job was to do what had to be done with the ammunition. And I was an 18-year-old kid at that point, maybe 19. But when I saw that, I just was at a loss. I didn't know what to do. So the colonel that was with us, Colonel Bourne, that was, he went over to the net, and he quick pulled the grenades away from the net, and we opened them up, and he said we can't throw too many away because we're not sure if we're going to actually be leaving today. So we got them away from the net, through the hot canisters we threw over. We kept the other ones, and we eventually got out of there. You know, we were really we were fortunate that day. But by the time we got out, everybody was dying of thirst because since they started attacking us, we couldn't access the water, so we were running out of water. We had, on that operation, they were starting to give us the experiment with what they called long rats, were like dehydrated rations. So we would mix them with, when we had water, you mix them with the water, and they were pretty good. They were different. But since we didn't have much water, we couldn't mix them, so we couldn't really eat too much, you know, because if you ate them dry, it would make you thirsty, and you didn't have enough water just to cook them up. So, but eventually we got out of there, and that's the story that I thought about when I was riding through the mountains. Uh, this is back in, I would say, the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It was quite a few years after the actual event. So, well, my dog's barking. I don't want her to kill my neighbor. She's just a terror. She's a barking maniac. So I hope you enjoyed this story, and stop back. I'll post another one. Just subscribe, click the bell on this side, and you'll be notified next time something comes to mind. Thanks for watching.